A supporting actor, he looks like is a hard runaway with Kieran Culkin. I am really excited to watch that movie. If you guys aren't sure about what my process normally is with this stuff, I generally will wait to watch a lot of these Oscar nominations until like the month of. So I'm going to be watching them all in the month of February pretty much. So I'll have fresh takes for everybody as we get into official Oscar time. And the Kieran Culkin, A Real Pain. I saw advertisements for this. It's on Hulu now, so I'll be able to just pop in and watch that pretty easily. It's sitting at a 96 on Rotten Tomato. It looked like a fun film, and Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg, that's just a fun energy that like I'm here for. A fun, weird energy, and looks like he is pretty much a lock to win Best Supporting Actor, according to vcin.com, that is. Zoe Saldana is the favorite for Best Supporting Actress, but Ariana Grande is behind her at a plus 500. I'm a bit surprised with this one. I thought that Ariana would probably be the favorite going into this just because of the publicity around it, but who knows? Welcome back to the Variant Cast. Today we are going to be taking a look at Oscar nominations, Oscar snubs, and everything in between. I'm here with the only man that has seen Amelia Perez more times than he can count, and he can count very high, one of the highest counters I know, Trent.
Yep, I can almost count past the Amelia Perez box office, but not quite there yet. Still trying to get all those numbers in my head.
Yeah, it's tough to rack your brain around just how much success is there, and really I think the biggest snub for me is there isn't a nomination in every category, because I'm here for a sweep. We're unfortunately not going to get it, but it can take home Best Picture. If you guys are curious, there are 10 nominations for Best Picture that went to Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. Who's missing from that list, Trent?
So personally, I think that Challengers is missing. The Zendaya tennis movie. That was, one of my favorite movies of the year last year. I think that the directing of it is great, and I think the music is great, and the acting. And I just couldn't believe that it didn't get a nod here. And then on top of that, what was the other one that we were saying, that we were just saying? Not that we'll cut this. We'll cut this.
Yeah. I don't.
Fuck. What were we were literally just talking about one.
It was the Challengers soundtrack.
We're talking about, I don't know. Oh, I guess we were talking about Dune getting snubbed for directing. And then another surprise for me would be Dune not getting nominated for directing, because we all know that Denis Villeneuve pours his heart and soul into the Dune movies, and Josh Brolin famously said he'll quit acting if Denis Villeneuve doesn't get nominated for an Oscar for Dune Part 2. And so I guess we're kissing the Oscar nom and Josh Brolin's career goodbye. So
hey, he's done. Unfortunate, but we'll see if he's a man of his word. I imagine not so. But if you are curious, the directing noms went to Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Amelia Perez, and The Substance. So I think out of those, I think I'd be most interested to see like The Brutalist win. It not often that we see a film like that even come into the nomination, but I really not sure where this is going to be going. I'm going to go ahead and get the odds pulled up here in a second to kind of see where, not Vegas, I don't know who runs these books. If you guys don't know, which I'm sure you do because sports betting is just like the most normalized thing in the world, but they also do like odds, like sports betting odds for the Oscars, and they're normally fairly correct. You'll see pretty large upsets like plus 400 winning. Like Lily Gladstone, I think, was a pretty decent minus when she lost to Emma Stone. So there obviously are upsets, but it at least gives you an idea of where they are leaning. So The Brutalist is the betting favorite to win at a minus 130. Amelia Perez is actually number 2. I thought Wicked would be higher, but they give Wicked a 16-1 odd to take home Best Picture. Best Actor looks like it'll most likely be going to Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, or Ralph Fiennes. Correct me if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
I think it's
and then Sebastian Stan is the furthest long shot at a 20-1 odds. Best Actress, they do have Demi Moore as the favorite, which I know would be a big moment for a lot of people. And then Mickey Madison is very close at a plus 125, basically meaning they're pretty much neck and neck there. Best Supporting Actor, he looks like is a hard runaway with Kieran Culkin. I am really excited to watch that movie. If you guys aren't sure about what my process normally is with this stuff, I generally will wait to watch a lot of these Oscar nominations until like the month of. So I'm going to be watching them all in the month of February pretty much. So I'll have fresh takes for everybody as we get into official Oscar time. And the Kieran Culkin, A Real Pain. I saw advertisements for this. It's on Hulu now, so I'll be able to just pop in and watch that pretty easily. It's sitting at a 96 on Rotten Tomato. It looked like a fun film, and Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg, that's just a fun energy that like I'm here for. A fun, weird energy, and looks like he is pretty much a lock to win Best Supporting Actor, according to vcen.com, that is. Zoe Saldana is the favorite for Best Supporting Actress, but Ariana Grande is behind her at a plus 500. I'm a bit surprised with this one. I thought that Ariana would probably be the favorite going into this just because of the publicity around it, but who knows? Brady Corbett is the favorite for the Best Director. And that's all the ones they have odds for. I don't think they really mess around with odds for original score or song or anything like that. But those are always interesting to look at, and it'll be interesting to see if they change in the coming months. You would think with media that is already produced and we're just waiting on who the awards are going to, there wouldn't be much variation, but it is the Academy after all.
Yeah, I too was surprised that Wicked didn't get a directing nomination, and I think that part of the reason why maybe the odds are so low is because I was reading somewhere where there's a trend of best directors also winning Best Picture, and so I think that if people think that The Brutalist is gonna win Best Director, maybe that's also the safe bet to win Best Picture, But at the same time, I do think that giving it to something like Wicked would be like not necessarily an upset because it was one of like the biggest movies of the year, but it like in terms of Oscars, I think that it would be a good, I think that it'd be a good time up on stage.
How many musicals have won the Best Picture? I imagine didn't La La Land win? We're getting the stats on that, but I imagine it's a pretty low number.
So 10 musicals have won Best Pictures, starting with all the way back in 1929 with the Broadway Melody.
Classic.
Yeah, the classic. Let's see some more recent ones. West Side Story won in the 60s, Sound of Music, and then the last one that won is this an updated list? I don't know if this is necessarily updated because I'm pretty sure La La Land won.
I don't know. That might be a Mandela effect thing going on there. We all just
maybe they were announced as like, because there was that year where somebody announced the wrong Oscar Best Picture.
Right. There was that couple year gap where like we were. I don't know if it was intentional looking back on it, but everyone claims it wasn't, but just announcing the wrong winner for something. There was a few viral moments in the mid 2010s that included just saying the wrong name while announcing a winner. The one job you have while announcing the winner.
Yeah, so La La Land did not win. And so the last musical win would be in 2002. Wait for it, we just had it pulled up. A musical called Chicago. So never heard of that one.
I think it's from Victorious, the Chicago, that.
I gotcha.
Yeah. I think it's that.
It would be like the first time in over 20 years then that a musical has won Best Picture, which would be crazy.
On the flip side of that, there hasn't been a horror movie to win since 1991 with The Silence of the Lambs. So there was 2 in the 70s, Exorcist and The Omen. So the 70s were kind of like the Renaissance. But then since then, we haven't had anything. And The Substance has a chance to buck that trend. Obviously, leading actress Demi Moore is the favorite to win Best Actress with her role as Elizabeth Sparkle. But I think that this film itself is a bit of a long shot. I think they gave it 20-1 odds, so worse odds than Wicked. But it is at least a horror movie nomination, and we can love that.
Yeah. I think that it has a good chance at winning a couple awards. I think is it also nominated for Best Visual Effects?
I would
so
assume
it looks like
so.
It's nominated for.
It is not. Achievement in visual effects went to Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked. I think that's probably a lock for Dune Part 2. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I think I was wrong last year about who would win the visual effects. But I think Dune just visually is one of the best movies I've watched. If that's not it, I'd be shocked. I think Wicked looks very nice, but I don't know if it is groundbreaking in any way. I think it really is more the music for me.
Yeah. It's interesting how there's three monkey movies nominated for visual effects. You got Better Man, where a man is portrayed as a monkey, the biopic, and then there's Planet of the Apes, and then Wicked also has some flying monkeys. So
that's a good point. Dang. I did see just a bit about this, of just like this being the year of the monkey, which I'm with. I think Better Man flopped commercially, but
it did. It made like $2 million.
That's tough. But hey, this weird biopic, strange visual renaissance we're seeing. It's at least more interesting than the standard biopic. But I'm curious how long this streak of a biopic getting a Best Picture nom is going to go. We kind of talked about this in our predictions video, but we had the blanking on his name, A Star Is Born. Why am I blanking on that guy's name? Bradley Cooper, the biopic he did last year that everybody hated. Yeah. And I hated. It honestly drove me to near insanity.
Yeah, I can't even think of the name of it because I tried to just erase it from my memory.
Yeah, it actually feels like trauma trying to think about it. I watched that movie on 1.5 speed. I didn't even know Netflix had a 1.5 speed option until that movie. I feel I have to look it up now. But as I'm doing that, Maestro. Trent was quicker with it. Let's go ahead and say one category that is not a acting or film category. And by that I mean cinematography, costume design, documentary, editing, any of those categories, makeup, score, whatever it is. We'll do just one lock. What do you think is an absolute lock in its category?
I think Wicked has best production design. I think that's a lock.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm going to go ahead and just say the one I said earlier with Dune Part 2 taking home visual effects. And then I also want to give a shout out to The Wild Robot because, I love The Wild Robot in sound and also animated. So
yeah, the sound in. Did you get a chance to watch the Wild Robot?
I haven't yet, but I've read the book, which there's a
gotcha.
book. It's a kid's book.
Well, the sound in that is really good, and I think that it definitely has a shot at taking home best animated feature, because looking at the list of animated noms, I think that's the standout of the year.
You were telling me a little bit about Flow, how it was made entirely in Blender, which is big deal for the Blender heads out there. It also has a 98% on Rotten Tomato. This is definitely one that I'm going to be watching. I'm not going to watch all of the animated feature like noms. I'll probably watch Wild Robot and Flow, as well as all the Best Picture noms, and I guess everything else is pretty much overlapping. So
yeah,
I got like 15 films to watch in the month of February. Should be a fun time. I think the main criticism around this year probably is due to Challengers. I think that's a big chunk. I think Challengers had a pretty large cultural footprint, and it's really just an effect of timing. And I think that's something that the Academy, I'm not going to say needs to look into, because I'm sure they're well aware, but it's just such an obvious flaw in the system that things being released at certain times affects the quality, that just like kind of goes into the face of, what a film award show should be. It really makes zero sense.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And especially seeing that Challengers was basically, I feel like, the internet's favorite movie of last year. It was like the most talked about movie, I feel like, throughout the entire year. There was just like, I just always saw people talking about that movie, and all the different, like, the editing in it, and the sound and the acting and stuff like that. And so yeah, I am surprised that it didn't make it, but leave it to the Academy to leave out a fan favorite movie.
It almost feels, and I'm going to do some projecting here, but it definitely feels like Challengers was popular, extremely popular with Gen Z, and it almost feels like the people that are in charge of making these nominations kind of, like, I don't know, there's probably not much Gen Z representation in that room, is all I'm saying. And I can imagine a film that would be very popular with a demographic they might look at and look down on, or just being like, nah, this isn't us. And I think that's a flaw. But they're the Academy. Who am I to question?
Exactly. We're just peasants compared to everybody who votes at the Academy.
Maybe we need to get some gold guy statue and start giving out gold guy statues. Like, really, what credentials do they have other than probably a lot of credentials and a lot more money?
100+ years of award shows.
What do they know? We just need a little gold guy statue, and that's all it really takes.
Yeah, exactly.
So anything else on Oscars, or?
Nope, I think we covered it all.
Yeah. Well, I had a little, I guess this is a segment, or I don't know what to call it. I was going to be a full video, but in my typical fashion, I came up with the idea too late and didn't get to it. So I just have movies that I watched. I went ahead and sent a list of these movies to Trent like 3 days ago with no context. I just sent the list. You know what it was. You put it together. I was curious if you would put it together. It's fairly obvious. So the divisional or conference championship games are this Sunday. We're recording this on Saturday. By the time this is uploaded, it'll probably be either past or the day of. So not going to get out quite in time for the relevancy, but if you are unaware, there's 4 teams left in the NFL playoffs, and those teams are the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Commanders. So I watched one movie from all of those cities, I guess you could say. One film vaguely related to each team. So for the Chiefs, I went ahead and counted a touchdown story or holiday touchdown, a Chiefs love story. I counted that. Just to touch on that real quick, we've talked about it a little bit around the holidays, but it's bad. Santa instigated the whole thing, and he should be looked at as a criminal, not as a guy that or not as, I don't know. He's toxic, is my point. Santa is toxic in that film. There's a weird hat that is the reason the Chiefs keep winning. So we don't know if a member of the family wore that hat on Christmas this year. I don't know. I'm assuming it's obviously based on a true story. So we'll find out, because the hat doesn't win the Super Bowl. The hat just gets them to the Super Bowl. So That's the big thing this Sunday. For their opponent, the Bills, I watched Buffalo 66, which is a film from 1998, directed by Vincent Gallo, who also stars, writes, and composes the film. It is a interesting movie. It has a lot of really dark humor in it, which I was pleasantly surprised with. But it also has a lot of long, pointless shots. It basically just is a love story with a classic sitcom plot of, hey, I need to bring a girl to act as my girlfriend around my parents for the holidays. So I bring this girl to pretend to be my girlfriend, and then she ends up actually like falling for me. I fall for her, and it's like this whole thing. There's a gambling subplot where he puts like 10 grand on the Bills to win the Super Bowl. They obviously don't. And there's a really strange like dinner scene with the family where his mom was basically like, oh, the last time the Bills actually won a playoff game, I was giving birth to this guy, and I wish I never gave birth to him so I could actually watch them win, which is just like a crazy feeling to have about a team. But hey, you do you, Bills Mafia. And it's, I don't know. I don't think it's a good movie. I really don't. It's really full of itself. It's very posh film. And I was kind of looking into it. I think a lot of people kind of felt this way, that Vincent Gallo being the director, the writer, and the lead actor, it comes off very self-indulgent. And I don't know if I would recommend this film. It's under 2 hours, which is cool, but it is just not exactly an entertaining movie. And if you're a Bills fan and you just want to watch a film about the Bills, there's really not much Bills in it. I don't know. To me, it painted Bills fans in a pretty negative light, which is easy to do, don't get me wrong, but it's not something I would really be prideful of if I was a Bills fan. So hopefully if they win the Super Bowl this year, they can get a new movie about them, so I don't have to watch Buffalo 66 trying to find a movie about the Buffalo Bills. From there, I watched The Replacements, which this is a fairly famous film starring Keanu Reeves, and it's pretty bad. It has a few interesting spots, and I was kind of like watching it. I was kind of surprised, like halfway through, that it wasn't more popular. Like, especially like when films like Dodgeball have such like cultural relevance. Like, why is this film left in the dust? And one part of it is it's just like absurdly racist. Half of the characters are just like racial archetypes, whether that be a former sumo wrestler from Japan or like just, you know, like a black guy that's just in jail, like literal jail. And there's Jon Favreau playing a SWAT officer that just is like insane. There's a weird romance subplot. And really, I'd say the romance subplot is the biggest flaw of this movie. It comes in at an hour and 58 minutes, which isn't a long movie, but it feels really long. And I think if you just cut out the romance subplot that every film of this type has to have for some reason, it would be more watchable. I don't think I would recommend watching this movie. But of all the ones that I watched, it had by far the most football, but the football in it doesn't really make sense. It is obvious that someone making this movie had knowledge of the NFL and just different football operations, but it's still a bit uncanny valley in that sense. Like the film essentially centers around scab players taking over during the player strike, and the real players, they apparently have nothing better to do with their time than just be like bullies in the parking lot of the stadium, which I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure in the 90s they had separate practice fields. They didn't like practice at the actual stadium, but they're out there being like, that's my parking spot, and flipping over his car. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. You never said what team is that for, the Commanders?
Yeah, so there's this one was interesting. Yeah, they're in Washington here. And I figured it makes sense because, like, obviously the Commanders have gone by the football team in the past. They were the Redskins, and there are like films that mention those teams, but this is the only film that centers around a team in Washington. So I figured it made the most sense because, they don't really have one name anyway. So this is the Washington Sentinels that we're going on here. It's worth a watch. Oh yeah, they make fun of blind people too, which is just kind of another one in there. Like, it's one thing to, oh no, not blind, sorry, deaf. There's a deaf tight end who, like, the jokes are kind of absurd. There's like one where it's like, oh, at least you never have to worry about him going off sides on an audible. I'm just, what do you, I guess that's true, man. I guess that's true. Keanu Reeves in it, he kind of just is there. He seems to be having an okay time, but he also seems to be half asleep half the time. I don't know if I buy him as a quarterback, but I guess Shane Falco has kind of some cultural relevance. I've heard the name Shane Falco. I've never watched this movie, but I think the most believable was Jon Favreau as the insane middle linebacker. I think he was the only one I was like, okay, this guy makes sense on a team. There's two brothers who are bouncers that are full of just racial stereotypes. It's an okay movie that if you cut out like 25, 30 minutes, I think it could have been a good film. And it would have been short and hopefully less racist. That would be cool. But, if you like, early 2000s insensitive comedy, definitely written by a bunch of white guys, then this is the film for you. And then the last film was Silver Linings Playbook. This is something that I thought was going to have more football in it. It centers around the maestro himself, Bradley Cooper, as he struggles with bipolar disorder, and the love interest, Jennifer Lawrence, who's dealing with the loss of her husband by, just hoeing it out, which is sick. And it's a really chaotic love story centered around a dance routine plot. Have you ever seen this film, Trent?
No, I'm curious why you thought there was going to be more football in it.
Because of the cover.
The cover never gave me football vibes.
I'm talking about. See if I can get it up on screen here for you guys. I'm talking about. It's the one on IMDb where
I guess he's wearing a jersey.
No, it's like there's like whole plays.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like it's like
I guess it's called the Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah. It's like a playbook.
Yeah.
Here, I got it on screen for you guys here. So I'm not crazy for thinking that this was gonna have some football in it. Like, there's legitimate plays here. They're there. But it does, have a good amount of football. There's a reference to parlays. There's, the film essentially takes place exclusively on Sunday, jumping from like one Sunday to the next as time advances, which I think is a neat narrative device and a good way to like pace a film to be a bit more believable. I think probably the thing I would change, I don't think this movie was too long, which is my normal critique of movies, but I think just in general, they could have introduced Jennifer Lawrence's character a bit earlier, because the first like 20 to 25 minutes of this is setting up him trying to get his ex-wife back, which it's fine to like divert from that. But especially like with the cover and everything, like this should have been like co-stars. We should have got like her backstory as well, instead of just getting his side and then they introduce her. I know they were trying to do like certain things and hiding like parts of her personality and her past and having this like weird like plan with the mom. It's kind of needlessly convoluted. It's one of the most convoluted rom-coms I've ever seen in terms of like the final act is a parlay, Trent. The final act is Eagles need to beat the Cowboys to make the playoffs. Also, he needs to score at least a 5 out of 10 on his dance routine. So that's parlayed together for his dad to win all the money back that he lost on the Eagles the week prior, because he's superstitious and he believes that his son getting in a fight at the game is why they lost. So that's the whole setup for the thing. And then at the end, his ex-wife is like willing to take him back, but he decides, no, I actually love the girl that I learned this dance routine with, which is dope. But the reason he loves her is because she lied about getting a letter back from him. It's really weird. It's a really weird, like I thought I'd be able to explain it better, but now like going through it, it's more convoluted. But you know, moral of this whole segment is I'm going to pick the winner of the Super Bowl by who had the best movie. And that is, that's the Commanders. Doesn't matter that it was a bad movie, that The Replacements is a racist mess.
You still liked it more than Silver Linings Playbook?
I did. Maybe not as good of a film. Maybe has nothing unique going for it. What it does have, though, is that it has Jon Favreau going around screaming a bunch. And I liked that. I enjoyed that. And Keanu Reeves, he was bored to be there. He really wanted no part in this project. It felt like just like watching the movie. I have no idea how he feels about it afterwards, but I liked how little he cared and how much Jon Favreau cared. It was a nice contrast between the two. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, but all of these films are pretty mid. Maybe the moral of the story here is that films that involve football aren't good, but who knows? And with that, we're going Bills over Chiefs, because I do believe that one of the family members wore the hat on Christmas. Therefore, the Chiefs will be in the Super Bowl, but we're going Commanders over Chiefs 31-20.
Yeah. I had, Commanders versus Bills, and I have the Bills winning.
So you think a family member didn't wear the hat on Christmas?
No, I think that, just like the holiday touchdown, I think that the hat got stolen.
The hat got stolen. Trent, do you have the hat?
Maybe.
Be an all-time bit if you just pull that.
I should have had a Chiefs hat. That would have been iconic. But no, I like your thought process of picking a winner off the movies. The movies that came to my mind would be Silence of the Lambs for Buffalo, because the main villain is Buffalo Bill, and then
gotta get some more football. This is Buffalo 66. It centers around like the football. A little bit, a little bit. Not really. That one probably has the least to do with any football, but yeah.
Invincible, the movie about where he tries out for the Eagles, based off a true story.
That probably would have been the one that I did, but I just happened to watch Silver Linings Playbook, and then that kind of gave me the idea to watch the others, because I had already seen Holiday Touchdown, and then now I had seen Silver Linings Playbook. But yeah, Invincible, I still can't believe that Mark Wahlberg, one of the most famous Patriots fans, did that film. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, that's crazy thinking about that. like, because back when I watched it, I wasn't really into, actor lore or anything like that. But yeah, it is wild to think about, like, if, yeah, say, yeah, like you said, a huge Patriots fan, like Chris Evans or somebody played a character for, the Cowboys or the Eagles.
I don't think Chris Evans
Wild.
is a Patriots fan.
I thought he was.
Ben Affleck is. I don't know. Maybe Chris
No,
Evans
no,
is.
Chris Evans also a Boston guy.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, because I remember because I remember back at the Super Bowl of the Patriots and the Seahawks. Forget who the other Avenger was, but there was like, there was an Avenger that is a Seahawks fan, and it was like, two Avengers in the Super Bowl. But and he's Captain America. He's got to be a Patriots fan.
Yeah. Got it.
But yeah, I have mostly just been watching a lot of TV shows. Severance just came back after a long, like, 3-year wait. So season 2 finally starting back up. They did a really smart thing, I feel like, where the first episode of season 2, like, really just, like, got your attention back in the show. It, like, got you super invested back in the show and didn't necessarily answer all of the questions that you had from the season 1 finale. But then in the second episode, like, it kind of, like, backtracked and then kind of, like, explained some of the stuff that people had questions about. And I thought that was just, like, a really smart way of doing it, especially after, a 3-year wait. And I didn't go back and rewatch the show before it came out. I watched, like, breakdowns and, like, recaps to get me back up to speed. But I feel like it was really smart for them to kind of, not necessarily do, another pilot episode, but it got people back into the show that, that don't necessarily remember exactly everything that might have happened in the last season. And then in the second episode, going back and then kind of backtracking a little bit helps you remember more about season 1. And I just thought that was a really smart way of doing it. And I think that, more shows could probably benefit from that if they were to take a long break, like series like Stranger Things or Invincible, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I do like when they play around with season structures because obviously there is a formula generally of how you lay out a season. But I think beyond just the doing time jumps, because I think time jumps can sometimes be a lazy way of trying to be a bit creative, or like jumping around through time where it's like, oh, we're going to show scenes from the end of the season, or we're going to have a whole episode that like makes no sense to you until you get like later. I think that stuff can be lazy, but I think just doing things like just moving the narrative along and not answering those questions, like you're saying, it almost gets you intrigued on something else, so that when you do jump back into the thing, it feels less forced. It's like a natural kind of, okay, now we're gonna ease you back in. I like that. I've been meaning to watch Severance, haven't got around to it. I have been watching some TV stuff myself. Just started rewatching Invincible with season 3 coming out. I've been catching up my girlfriend on that, so she knows what's going on, as well as watching the first season of School Spirits. The next season of School Spirits is coming out. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of like a teen drama, but it's a bit better than like a Riverdale in terms of quality. It's about just different ghosts that die in this high school, and they, still can see everything going on in the high school. Story centers around a girl that's trying to solve her own murder in said high school. There's a bunch of, fun characters and stuff. Season 2 is coming out. The cast is really, really into it. I didn't think it would get a season 2. Kind of thought it was a Paramount Plus original, but it got on Netflix, got pretty popular, and now we're here with season 2 coming out soon. I watched, like I said, sorry, I got completely lost my train of thought there. But we are coming up on the end of this episode. Did we have anything left before we go into like an outro here?
I could talk about one more show. The other show I've been watching is the new Dexter show. So there's a new Dexter prequel show that, when it was announced, I was not on board with it. I'll be honest. I was like, the the first series ended like really bad. It had a really bad last season. Like it kind of just took a turn, and then the the show, like the revival show, was so good up until the very last episode, and then they and they botched it again. And so I was kind of skeptical about returning to the Dexter universe, and especially with like a young Dexter, knowing that Michael C. Hall, the dude who played Dexter, is like way older now. And one thing that this show does right though is I think that so they have Michael C. Hall back as like the voice of Dexter, so he narrates like the whole show, and I think that that really helps stitch together like the timeline, the continuity and stuff like that. And I think that that works really well. And on top of that, like they'll do things where they'll play on like what you knew in the original show, and then you'll be thinking and you're like, oh well, they said that this didn't happen until later, and then something would go wrong and it wouldn't necessarily happen exactly how he wanted it to. So it's like they kind of play with like your expectations a little bit. And the original show had a bunch of flashbacks, like it was just like the original characters or the original actors just like wearing wigs, which are always like some of my favorite flashbacks, when they just have like older actors just wearing like wigs and acting like high school kids. And those are just my favorite. But they do a good job of like using those, but also just telling an entire new story. And yeah, we're what, 6 7 episodes into it, and I'm fully invested. And I just hope that I don't get burned again on the last episode.
I'm hoping for you. I know it's a very popular series, and I have heard like just about the new ones coming out and stuff, and I've heard pretty much only good things. So
Yeah.
it's turned into a bit of a franchise, and sounds like it's at least succeeding in that regard.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I never imagined that Dexter would be like a franchise or like an IP that they would want to keep going back to and have like 4 or 5 series about it. But here we are. It shows that don't necessarily count anything out, like just taking IPs. I know it's based off of a book, so and the show went farther than I think the book series went. But no, it's interesting to see how just like these kind of independent shows will just kind of grow and create their own IP and franchise.
Yeah. Speaking of franchises, before we go, I did want to give because I rewatched Peacemaker recently.
I needed to do that.
Rewatched The Suicide Squad and then Peacemaker. Just getting caught up on. I know it's not like directly connected, but it is at the same time. Just honestly, just off the hype of Creature Commandos, it sucks that we're gonna have to wait till July now. Sitting here, is there any other DC projects coming out until July? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so we have Superman in July, and then a Peacemaker season 2 in August. So I imagine Peacemaker season 2 will deal with some of the aftermath of Superman, just because James Gunn seems to like to do that. I was kind of trying to pay attention to anything, because he does purposefully, put things, especially like small things, like, oh, if there's a alien that Superman kills and leaves on the ground, then he might have a series where some character comes across that alien and befriends them or something weird. And I think with the butterflies, they did go ahead and, wrap all that stuff up pretty much. I do wonder if there's maybe like 1 or 2 butterflies that are like alive. And I wonder if that's going to be addressed in Peacemaker season 2. And then I'm also wondering how Creature Commandos is going to kind of tie into everything. I think the biggest thing is the fictional country that they're in, the princess and everything. She's dead, so I don't know if the assassination... Oh, spoilers for Creature Commandos. If you just started watching the first season, sorry about that. But I'm definitely interested to see how this stuff is going to tie in. We have a very, very small entry point into the universe right now. So I'm really hoping that, we get some surprises that at least give us a little bit more to chew on. Because right now I'm grasping at straws because I'm very interested in this universe, but there is not much content around it. And I'm not someone that, watches all of James Gunn's tweets. I'm not like a Snyder Cut fan, so I'm not on his tweets like that, but
yeah, he did say something that I think kind of cleared some stuff up between like the canon, like the canon stuff that people are complaining about between like the Suicide Squad and like this new DCU. And he said that the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker season 1 are like basically like foggy memories of the DC universe. So it's like he said that that Rick Flag died because we saw it in the Suicide Squad, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like that everything that happened in the Suicide Squad movie happened, So he said that like it's almost like a revisionist history version of the DCU, or maybe like vice versa, where it's like there is like a little bit more revised version. And I think that that's a better explanation than say oh yeah, this is it's got some of the characters from Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad, but we're recasting most people and it's mostly staying the same, but it's all going to be different.
Honestly, I think the biggest reason for that is probably Harley Quinn, because I don't think Margot Robbie is going to be in this new universe. So, and they may have a completely different origin for her and everything. So, I think that would play into the foggy memory. The foggy memory being she was never actually there.
Yeah, and like because she had history with the Ben Affleck's Batman and Jared Leto's Joker, and we all know that James Gunn hates Jared Leto. So.
And honestly, going back to it, doesn't the Suicide Squad just kind of feel like a pilot for James Gunn's DC?
Like it was like, here's my style, here's what I'm going to do with DC, and they gave him the keys after that because they liked what he did.
Yeah, and I mean, Peacemaker, probably the foggy memories. It'll be pretty funny, like going back when there is like an established DCU, and then watching the last episode of Peacemaker season 1 when Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa. Yeah, because he's going to be playing Lobo. Like it's this random scene that's technically canon / not canon where he's Aquaman for some reason.
Yeah, gonna be really fun.
But hey, that's all we really got. If you have any thoughts about Oscar recommendations, the DCU, or anything that we talked about today, or if you just have recommendations on content, we're going to be doing a more trilogy retrospectives in the future. It seems like that's probably our most popular thing that people enjoy us going over. So The Dark Knight has been pretty high up on that list, so maybe we'll get to that. But if you have any recommendations of some trilogies or franchises that you would like us to dive into, talk about, feel free to leave those below. We read every comment, even if it's, accusing us of being on Disney's payroll, which with us and our 200 subscribers, I would gladly take a spot on Disney's payroll. Kevin, Bob, whoever's watching, if I am on your payroll, I have not received any money. So let me know if you need my routing number and account. I will get those to you promptly.
Yeah, I expect an email here shortly with a request for that information. But, in the meantime, thank you guys all for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're not too upset about the Oscar noms. And go ahead and explain to us in the comments why you're so devastated about challengers not making it. So go ahead and do that. And we will see you all next week.
Peace.
Deuces.